Behind every glittering award ceremony and red carpet photograph lies a statistic that Hollywood rarely discusses. 13 names, 13 talents, 13 lives cut short not by accident or illness, but by a silent killer that feeds on pressure, isolation, and the crushing weight of expectation. From River Phoenix collapsing outside the Viper Room to Philip Seymour Hoffman found with a needle in his arm, these weren't just tragic headlines. They were human beings who discovered that fame's golden cage often becomes a prison from which escape seems impossible only through chemical means. What transforms Hollywood's brightest stars into cautionary tales? The answer lies not in moral failing, but in a system that elevates individuals to impossible heights, then leaves them to navigate the fall alone. These 13 stories reveal the hidden price of fame and the demons that even the most talented cannot always conquer. If you want to understand the real cost of celebrity, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because these stories need to be told. River Phoenix, the star who burned. Too bright, River Phoenix embodied everything Hollywood promised the world could become. Born into a nomadic family that sought spiritual enlightenment through the religious sect Children of God, he developed an empathy and sensitivity that would later define his most memorable performances. His childhood, spent traveling across America in search of meaning, instilled in him a deep understanding of human vulnerability that translated seamlessly to the screen. When Phoenix landed his breakout role in Stand By Me at 16, critics immediately recognized something special. His portrayal of Chris Chambers, the tough kid with a tender heart, felt so authentic that audiences forgot they were watching an actor. The performance launched a career that would span just 7 years but leave an indelible mark on cinema. Beyond acting, Phoenix championed environmental causes and animal rights, maintaining a vegan lifestyle and performing with his band, Aleka's Attic. He seemed to represent a new generation of conscious celebrities, ones who used their platform for positive change. Yet beneath this idealistic exterior, Phoenix battled addiction that began with psychedelic drugs in his teenage years. On October 31, 1993, Phoenix visited the notorious Viper Room nightclub in Hollywood. That night, he consumed a lethal combination of cocaine and heroin. At 1:15 a.m., he collapsed on the sidewalk outside, convulsing as his brother Joaquin frantically called for help. River Phoenix was pronounced dead 36 minutes later. He was 23 years old, his immense potential forever unrealized. Philip Seymour Hoffman, the master's final performance. Philip Seymour Hoffman possessed the rare ability to disappear completely into any character he portrayed. Born in Fairport, New York, he discovered both his calling and his curse during his college years at New York State University, where he studied theater arts and first experimented with drugs. By 22, several dangerous episodes forced him into rehabilitation, beginning a 23-year period of sobriety that coincided with his rise to prominence. Hoffman's dedication to his craft bordered on obsession. For his Oscar-winning portrayal of Truman Capote, he spent months studying video recordings, reading letters, and interviewing the writer's contemporaries. He learned to mimic Capote's distinctive high voice and mannerisms so perfectly that he didn't just play the character, he became him. This intense method approach defined his performances in Magnolia, The Big Lebowski, Doubt, and The Master. Stem. In his personal life, Hoffman built what appeared to be a stable foundation with costume designer Mimi O'Donnell and their 3 children. He seemed to have found the balance that eluded so many of his peers. However, in 2012, after nearly a quarter-century of sobriety, something shifted. Initially, he returned to prescription drugs and alcohol, but gradually, heroin re-entered his life. On February 2, 2014, writer David Katz discovered Hoffman dead in his Greenwich Village apartment bathroom, a needle still in his left arm. Nearby lay packets of heroin bearing the street name Ace of Spades. The autopsy revealed a toxic combination of heroin, cocaine, benzodiazepine, and amphetamine. At 46, one of cinema's greatest character actors had given his final, most tragic performance. Heath Ledger, perfectionism's ultimate price. Heath Andrew Ledger arrived in Hollywood carrying the dreams of an entire continent. Born in Perth, Australia, he abandoned formal education at 16 to pursue acting, moving to Sydney with nothing but determination and natural talent. His early success in 10 Things I Hate About You established him as a teen heartthrob, but Ledger craved artistic recognition over commercial appeal. The role that would define his career came in Brokeback Mountain, where he portrayed Ennis Del Mar, a cowboy struggling with forbidden love. Ledger's performance was a masterclass in subtlety. Every glance, every pause, every moment of internal conflict felt authentic. The film earned him an Oscar nomination and critical acclaim, but also revealed the intensity with which he approached his work. This perfectionism reached dangerous levels during his preparation for the Joker in The Dark Knight. Ledger immersed himself completely in the character's psychology, keeping a detailed diary of the Joker's thoughts and mannerisms. He studied the nature of madness, experimenting with different voices and physical gestures until the boundary between actor and character began to blur. Combined with personal turmoil following his separation from Michelle Williams, this intense creative process led to severe insomnia and depression. On January 22, 2008, Ledger was found unconscious in his Manhattan apartment. The 28-year-old actor had accidentally overdosed on a combination of prescription medications, painkillers, sedatives, and sleeping pills that he had been using to combat his insomnia. His pursuit of artistic perfection had ultimately consumed him, leaving behind a legendary performance and a tragic reminder of creativity's potential cost. Cory Monteith. From Glee to Grief. Cory Allen Monteith's journey to stardom was paved with second chances and the determination to overcome a troubled past. Born in Calgary and raised in Victoria, British Columbia, his childhood fractured when his parents divorced when he was 7. By 13, Monteith was experimenting with alcohol and marijuana, quickly progressing to cocaine, ecstasy, and OxyContin. At 15, he was a regular user of hard drugs, his life spiraling toward what seemed like an inevitable conclusion. The wake-up call came at 19 when a near-fatal overdose forced Monteith to confront his addiction. With his mother's support, he entered rehabilitation and began the slow process of rebuilding his life. He earned his high school diploma and decided to try acting, viewing it as a fresh start and a way to channel his experiences constructively. In 2009, Monteith auditioned for Ryan Murphy's new series, Glee, and landed the role of Finn Hudson, a football quarterback who secretly loved music. The show became a cultural phenomenon, combining drama, comedy, and musical performances while addressing important social issues. Monteith's character evolved from a stereotypical jock to a sensitive young man, mirroring the actor's own transformation. His on-screen relationship with Lea Michele's Rachel Berry blossomed into real-life romance, and Monteith became a spokesperson for addiction recovery, openly discussing his struggles to help other young people. However, fame brought new pressures. In March 2013, he voluntarily entered rehabilitation again. 4 months later, while visiting Vancouver, Monteith was found dead in his hotel room from heroin and alcohol poisoning. He was 31 years old, his story of redemption cut tragically short. Chris Farley, the comedian who cried inside. Christopher Crosby. Farley transformed personal pain into public laughter, becoming one of Saturday Night Live's most beloved performers while battling demons that his comedy couldn't exorcise. Born in Madison, Wisconsin, to an Irish Catholic family, Farley was the third of 5 children who discovered early that his size and personality could make people laugh. At Marquette University, he studied theater and communications, participating in productions that honed his natural comedic instincts. After graduation, Farley moved to Chicago to join Second City, the legendary comedy theater that had launched countless careers. His physical comedy and improvisational skills quickly caught attention, leading to his 1990 recruitment to Saturday Night Live. There, he created unforgettable characters like Matt Foley, the hyperactive motivational speaker who lived in a van down by the river, and his Blues Brothers-inspired performances became instant classics. Farley's transition to film seemed natural, with Tommy Boy showcasing his ability to carry a feature-length comedy alongside David Spade. His rare gift was making audiences laugh through pure physical presence and genuine vulnerability. However, behind the laughter lay deep insecurity and loneliness. Colleagues described him as extraordinarily kind and sensitive, using humor as armor against internal pain. His struggles with obesity, depression, and addiction intensified as his fame grew. Friends repeatedly attempted interventions, but Farley couldn't overcome the combination of self-doubt and substance abuse that plagued him. On December 18, 1997, he was found dead in his Chicago apartment from cocaine and morphine poisoning, complicated by heart disease. At 33, the man who brought joy to millions had succumbed to the very pain he spent his life trying to mask. John Belushi, the original Saturday Night Live casualty. John Adam Belushi helped define modern American comedy while becoming its first high-profile casualty. Born to Albanian immigrant parents in Chicago, he possessed an energy and charisma that seemed boundless. As one of the original Saturday Night Live cast members in 1975, Belushi created iconic characters that remain cultural touchstones decades later. His Samurai Futaba sketches and the Blues Brothers, developed with Dan Aykroyd, demonstrated his range from physical comedy to musical performance. The Blues Brothers evolved beyond television sketches into a legitimate musical act. Their album, Briefcase Full of Blues, reached #1 on the charts, and the 1980 film became a genre-defining classic. Belushi's ability to seamlessly transition between comedy and music showcased a versatility that few entertainers possessed. His film debut in National Lampoon's Animal House introduced the character John Bluto Blutarsky, cementing his place in comedy history. Belushi approached everything with maximum intensity. He worked at the limits of his physical capabilities, often foregoing sleep to prepare for performances, then using alcohol and drugs to come down from the adrenaline high. This cycle became increasingly dangerous as his fame grew, but Belushi believed he could maintain control over his consumption. Friends and colleagues recognized the warning signs and attempted to intervene, but Belushi dismissed their concerns. On March 5, 1982, he was found dead at the Chateau Marmont Hotel in Hollywood. The cause of death was a speedball, a lethal combination of cocaine and heroin. At 33, the man who had helped launch Saturday Night Live became its first major loss, establishing a tragic pattern that would claim other comedy legends in the years to come. Bradley Nowell, Music as the Last Refuge. Bradley James. Nowell channeled his pain into music that defined a generation, but couldn't overcome the addiction that ultimately silenced his voice. Born in Long Beach, California, he discovered his musical calling early, learning guitar as a child and quickly demonstrating natural talent. In 1988, he founded Sublime with bassist Eric Wilson and drummer Bud Gow, creating a unique sound that blended reggae, punk rock, and ska into something entirely new. Sublime's music captured the laid-back California lifestyle while addressing deeper themes of struggle and addiction. Songs like Santeria and What I Got became anthems for a generation. But behind the catchy melodies lay Nowell's honest portrayal of his battle with heroin. He had begun using drugs as a teenager, but heroin became his primary demon during the 1990s as Sublime's popularity grew. The birth of his son Jacob in 1995 provided motivation for Nowell to attempt sobriety. He entered rehabilitation programs and seemed determined to overcome his addiction for his family's sake. However, the pressures of touring and recording, combined with the availability of drugs in the music scene, made sustained recovery difficult. Despite his best efforts and the support of bandmates and loved ones, Nowell couldn't break free from heroin's grip. On May 25, 1996, just 7 weeks before Sublime's major label debut album was scheduled for release, Nowell was found dead in a San Francisco hotel room. The cause of death was heroin overdose. He was 28 years old. The album achieved platinum status posthumously, but the world had lost a unique musical voice that combined raw honesty with infectious creativity. Dashiell Mihok. Unfinished Dreams. Dashiell Mihok represented the countless talented actors whose dreams were cut short before they could reach their full potential. Born into the competitive world of Hollywood, he appeared in several independent films and television series, including Gilmore Girls and Bones, demonstrating the natural ability and professionalism that colleagues noted and respected. While Mihok's career hadn't yet reached blockbuster status, industry insiders recognized his talent and dedication. He possessed the work ethic and passion necessary for long-term success in a notoriously difficult business. His roles, though often supporting rather than leading, showcased range and authenticity that suggested greater opportunities lay ahead. However, the entertainment industry's competitive nature and financial uncertainty created pressures that Mihok found increasingly difficult to manage. The constant auditioning, rejection, and financial instability that characterizes most actors' careers began taking a psychological toll. Initially, he turned to substances for stress relief, viewing them as a temporary solution to temporary problems. What began as occasional use gradually evolved into dependency. Mihok attempted to hide the extent of his struggles from friends and colleagues, maintaining professional appearances while privately battling addiction. Those close to him tried to offer support, but he minimized his problems, believing he could handle them alone. On September 14, 2010, Mihok was found dead in his Los Angeles apartment from heroin poisoning. He was 36 years old, his potential forever unrealized. His death served as a reminder that talent and ambition are not sufficient protection against addiction, and that the entertainment industry claims victims at every level, not just among its biggest stars. Jonathan Brandis, the child star who couldn't grow up. Jonathan Gregory Brandis experienced both the blessing and curse of early fame, ultimately becoming another casualty of the child star syndrome that has claimed too many young lives. Born in Danbury, Connecticut, he achieved national recognition playing Lucas Wolinchak in the science fiction series seaQuest DSV from 1993 to 1996. His character, a teenage computer genius, made Brandis a heartthrob among adolescent audiences and seemed to promise a bright future in entertainment. However, like many child actors, Brandis struggled with the transition to adult roles. After seaQuest DSV ended, he found it difficult to secure serious parts, often relegated to B-grade horror films and independent projects that failed to showcase his maturing abilities. The industry that had once celebrated his youthful appeal now seemed to view him as a relic of his teenage years. Financial difficulties compounded his professional frustrations. The steady income from his series days had ended, and his subsequent projects provided insufficient compensation to maintain his lifestyle. The combination of career stagnation and money problems led to depression and anxiety that Brandis initially tried to manage through alcohol and prescription drugs. As his condition worsened, despite intervention attempts by family and friends, Brandis became increasingly isolated. He began drinking daily and experimenting with various substances, seeking escape from disappointment and the pressure of early success that had never been matched. The promising young actor who had once seemed destined for stardom found himself trapped by expectations he could no longer meet. On November 12, 2003, Brandis ended his life at his Hollywood apartment. He was 27 years old, another bright light extinguished by the impossible pressures of growing up in the public eye. Donna Plato, The Different Strokes. Tragedy. Donna Michelle. Plato's life trajectory illustrates how childhood fame can become a prison from which escape proves impossible. Born in Maywood, Oklahoma, she achieved national recognition playing Kimberly Drummond on the popular sitcom Different Strokes from 1978 to 1986. The show, which featured her as the only white child in an African-American family adopted by a wealthy businessman, addressed social issues while entertaining audiences across America. However, when Different Strokes ended, Plato discovered that transitioning from child star to adult actress presented seemingly insurmountable challenges. Casting directors struggled to see her beyond her teenage television role, and serious dramatic opportunities remained elusive. The steady income and structure that the series had provided disappeared, leaving Plato without the financial security or professional identity that had defined her adolescence. The lack of work opportunities, combined with the absence of skills for life outside entertainment, created a downward spiral. Financial problems led to desperation, and in 1991, Plato was arrested for robbing a pharmacy in an attempt to obtain prescription drugs. This incident marked the beginning of a series of legal troubles involving shoplifting and drug possession that destroyed her reputation and eliminated any remaining career prospects. As her addiction deepened and her legal problems multiplied, Plato became increasingly isolated from both the industry and her support system. The bright, talented child who had once charmed television audiences became a cautionary tale about the dangers of early fame without proper guidance and support systems. On May 8, 1999, Plato died from an overdose of Valium and Vicodin at age 34, leaving behind a son who would grow up without his mother and a legacy that highlighted the need for better protection of child performers. Edward Furlong, The Survivor's Scars. Edward Walter. Furlong's story demonstrates both the destructive power of early fame and the possibility of redemption, even after falling to seemingly impossible depths. Born in Glendale, California, he became an international star at 13 through his role as John Connor in Terminator 2: Judgment Day. His natural performance alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger launched him into the spotlight with an intensity few teenagers could handle. The sudden transition from normal adolescence to global celebrity proved overwhelming for Furlong. Without proper guidance or support systems, he found himself navigating adult responsibilities while still developing emotionally and psychologically. The pressures of fame, combined with access to substances and adult influences, led him down a dangerous path during his teenage years. Despite several attempts to rebuild his career, Furlong's addiction continued to interfere with professional opportunities. Roles became fewer and less significant as his reputation for unreliability grew. The promising young actor who had once commanded million-dollar paychecks found himself struggling to secure even small parts in independent films. The lowest point came in 2011 when Furlong was hospitalized following an overdose that nearly claimed his life. However, this brush with death became a turning point rather than an ending. The experience forced him to confront the reality of his situation and commit seriously to recovery for the first time. Through rehabilitation and ongoing support, Furlong began rebuilding his life and career. While he never regained his early fame, he found steady work and, more importantly, stability and sobriety. His story serves as proof that even after the deepest falls, recovery remains possible with commitment, support, and the determination to reclaim one's life from addiction's grasp. Richard Pryor. The comedian who played with fire. Richard Franklin Lennox. Thomas Pryor III transformed personal trauma into groundbreaking comedy while battling addictions that nearly killed him multiple times. Born in Peoria, Illinois, and raised in a brothel run by his grandmother, Pryor's early exposure to life's harsh realities shaped his uncompromisingly honest, comedic voice. His childhood experiences provided material that would later revolutionize stand-up comedy through its raw authenticity and social commentary. Initially, Pryor imitated Bill Cosby's clean, mainstream style, but gradually developed his own unique voice that fearlessly addressed racism, drug abuse, and personal demons. His autobiographical performances were revolutionary, breaking barriers by discussing topics that mainstream entertainment had previously avoided. Albums like That Nigger's Crazy and Bicentennial Nigger challenged audiences while establishing Pryor as one of comedy's most influential figures. However, success couldn't shield Pryor from the addiction that plagued him throughout his career. His relationship with cocaine became increasingly dangerous, culminating in a 1980 incident that left him with third-degree burns over 50% of his body. While initially reported as an accident during freebasing, Pryor later admitted it was a suicide attempt, highlighting the depth of his psychological pain. Remarkably, Pryor transformed even this near-death experience into comedy material, demonstrating his ability to find humor in humanity's darkest moments. However, drugs continued damaging his health throughout the 1980s and 1990s. When he died of a heart attack in 2005, his years-long struggles with cocaine and alcohol had significantly compromised his physical condition. Pryor's legacy remains that of a comedic genius who paid an enormous personal price for his willingness to expose human frailty through laughter. Robert Downey Jr. The Resurrection Story. Robert John Downey Jr. Chambu's transformation from Hollywood pariah to global superstar represents one of entertainment's greatest comeback stories, demonstrating that redemption is possible even after seemingly complete professional destruction. Born to filmmaker Robert Downey Sr. and actress Elsie Ford, he began appearing in his father's films as a child, but achieved recognition in the 1980s through roles in Less Than Zero and Chaplin, the latter earning him an Oscar nomination. During the 1990s and early 2000s, Downey's career nearly ended due to his struggles with cocaine, heroin, and alcohol addiction. His arrests became tabloid staples, and his unpredictability made him uninsurable for major film productions. Multiple stints in prison and rehabilitation centers seemed to make little difference, and industry insiders wrote him off as another talented casualty of Hollywood excess. The turning point came through his relationship with producer Susan Levin, whom he met in 2003. Her love and support, combined with Downey's determination to reclaim his life, finally provided the foundation for lasting sobriety. His commitment to recovery became absolute, involving not just abstinence, but fundamental changes in lifestyle, relationships, and professional choices. When Jon Favreau cast Downey as Tony Stark in Iron Man, many considered it a risky gamble. However, Downey's performance revitalized both his career and the superhero genre, launching the Marvel Cinematic Universe and transforming him into one of the world's highest-paid actors. His portrayal of Stark drew explicitly from his own experiences with self-destruction and redemption, creating a character that resonated with audiences worldwide. Today, Downey actively supports addiction recovery programs and serves as proof that even the most public falls can be followed by spectacular rises when combined with genuine commitment to change and the right support system. These 13 stories reveal a pattern that transcends individual weakness or moral failing. They expose a system that elevates human beings to impossible heights, then abandons them to navigate the psychological pressures of fame without adequate support or understanding. River Phoenix, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Heath Ledger, and the others weren't just celebrities who made poor choices. They were talented individuals, crushed by expectations, isolation, and a culture that often values performance over humanity. The real tragedy lies not in their deaths, but in how preventable many of these losses were. Each story contains moments when intervention might have changed the outcome, when genuine support, rather than enabling, could have provided alternatives to self-destruction. The entertainment industry has slowly begun recognizing its responsibility to protect the people who create its magic, but progress remains insufficient. Perhaps most importantly, these stories remind us that addiction doesn't discriminate based on talent, wealth, or fame. The same demons that claimed these stars threaten ordinary people daily, often with even fewer resources for fighting back. Their struggles reflect broader societal issues about mental health, support systems, and the ways we handle pressure and isolation. Yet hope persists in stories like Robert Downey Jr. OES. Remarkable resurrection and Edward Furlong's ongoing recovery. These examples prove that redemption remains possible, that even after the deepest falls, human beings can rebuild their lives with proper support, determination, and genuine commitment to change. The legacy of these 13 talents should be measured not just in the entertainment they created, but in the lessons their struggles can teach us about compassion, intervention, and the precious fragility of human life itself. If these stories moved you, please share this video with someone who might need to hear them. Sometimes understanding that others have walked similar paths can provide the hope necessary to seek help. And remember to subscribe for more content that matters.